Good morning and welcome to American Scouser TV's pre-match show. I am back in the host chair. For some reason, they let me back in, but I have a couple friends here to help me along the way. Gally, how are we doing this morning?
I'm doing well. Excited to see the boys get back, see a response from them. A little surprised at who the response will be coming from, but we're going to get to that, I'm sure. People are lining up to talk about it.
I can tell you who wasn't part of any responses of any lineups, though. It was Macca. It seems like a bit of an admission of guilt, but I will give you the benefit of the doubt, sir.
I'm a good holy boy. I don't do those kinds of things.
I was going to say, if you wanted to leak a lineup, it would look a lot more disastrous than what we're looking at here.
Oh, yeah, probably.
And I don't mean to say disastrous as in, there's no hope for anything, but it's weird. No, it's not something we expected given Klopp's, his reign at the club. Having something like this happen, we've talked about having a response and seeing a response and doing this and doing that. When you have the same players that keep playing, you don't see that response. I guess the only thing to do is just to sort of rip it all off and start anew. So Gally, let's start with you. I guess I'm looking straight at that midfield, right? I think defensively and at the forward lines, I think, we can all say that those are fine where they are, but in the midfield, Endo, Gravenberch, and Elliott, what are your thoughts there?
Well, one, I feel like Elliott has earned the right to start over Szoboszlai in his first 11 for this team at this point on play and merit over the last month. So I have no problem with Elliott. To me, this just screams that McAllister just isn't superhuman and actually does need to be rested because he's been run into the ground by a manager who loves to run players into the ground, especially when you're talking about new toys, as he's proven over in the past once he starts to trust someone. So Endo and Elliott make a lot of sense. I think Gravenberch is a major shout. If Gravenberch needed minutes, he should have started in Italy on Thursday. This to me feels like a stretch, but it might also be a byproduct of Curtis Jones looking really, really poor and leggy in his time since coming back from injury. So as far as the midfield goes, I think it is a stretch for Gravenberch. I think it is a huge shout by the manager. I also think this has a underlying tone to more than just fitness. This is about Nunez, Szoboszlai, and Mo just not being good enough right now with the play that they're giving us when they're on the pitch.
Nick, good morning. And Nick here joining us. So we've got Elliott, Jota, and Diaz up top. Macca, how looking at the lineup, right? Gally just went over the midfield a bit. Any thoughts then on that forward line? Do you agree with Nick? Would you have gone with something like Elliott, Jota, and Diaz? Do you like Gakpo, Jota up and Diaz up top?
I would. I mean, Jota definitely in, but in terms of, I think Gally is right in terms of McAllister. I think he has been run into the ground and he has been doing a good job being run into the ground, but everybody has a wall. So Ellie in there makes more sense. I don't think it's pure fitness, and I don't think it's 6 games left of the season kind of a deal. I think Nunez and Mo were dropped. I think
Me too.
I think what happened was that I wouldn't even be surprised if it comes out afterwards that there was some sort of a blowout argument after the game on Thursday, because they didn't do enough. Diaz, we talked about Diaz on Thursday. Runs up a lot of blind alleys, but at least he runs in the right alleys. He just doesn't seem to know where to go after that. And then you have to put somebody in there. Gakpo, it's the conundrum of the season so far about why he's so different than last year when he first arrived. So, but I think definitely on Nunez and Mo, it's just you guys haven't been doing the business for the last few games. Have a seat and let's see what else. I'm surprised Dan's didn't get in instead of Diaz. If it was me and if I was that mad like Klopp, I probably would have put Dan's in instead because he did a good job of doing what Nunez is supposed to do. When he got his few appearances, I know he's only a academy player, so to speak, but he kind of did a slightly lower physical level of what Nunez did, except he could finish.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick here, I just think there's not enough pace up top, and Elliott, Jota, and Diaz are very unpredictable in a good way. I guess, Gally, Fulham away, I guess, you can think of it as pretty much Liverpool's bane of existence going away up against a side that is coached by Marco Silva, right? It never really goes so well. Whatever club he's at, I think there was some stat where Liverpool does not play well away, especially today in a game like this, in a game so important. Do you think that, as we've seen in the past, I think Mo has been dropped. I think this was a couple of years ago, right? And he was subbed in. He bagged in a brace and an assist, I think, from, if my memory is serving me correctly. Do you think that this is a sort of thing that could potentially inspire Mo coming back off the bench if they need it? Or do you think we're sort of at that tail end of the career at Liverpool and this is sort of the swan song and there's not much left there?
Yeah, so I'll shelf the second part of it just because there's plenty of time for us to talk about Mo's future, and
Sure.
I don't think it's needed for this morning. But I do agree with you. I think it is the swan song, and we'll get to that at a much deeper time. I think he got dropped because of merit. I think he got dropped because there's been a drop-off in the overall play. And I do think the club has to think about what they're going to do. I saw this comment come through. Where I would counter that is we haven't talked about the defense, which has also been a problem of late, and conceding too many goals and giving too many opportunities. And that blue-collar midfield that Nick talks about also had Jordan Henderson and Gini Wijnaldum doing a ton of work that Szoboszlai doesn't do on either side when he plays, which is why Elliott is in the midfield, is to help Trent, because we need something and someone to create. And where I don't disagree that Elliott should play, and I might have found different maturations of this midfield, I think today they needed Elliott on that right-hand side, because once again, this season should have shown people what Jordan Henderson's actual worth was to this side when he was in his prime, because it allowed Trent to be who he was. Because once that midfielder stops helping, dropping back and defending, it doesn't matter if you're Connor Bradley, Trent Alexander-Arnold, or a young Cafu. It doesn't matter. Nobody is going to look good defending if they're asked to do it all on their own and the midfielder's not coming back to help them and make runs. So I think the midfield has to play within itself. I have faith in Elliott doing it. I'm not as faithful in Gravenberch. And I think that's where I fear like they may get at us today a little bit. Play on the counter. The Muniz kid is in good form. I would hate to see that.
Good morning to Darren joining as well. We needed changes, especially some playing nearly every match, like Maka, 9 hours of footy in 19 days. Nunez and
100%.
Salah firing blanks. Maka, do you share the same midfield concerns as far as, because we know the system is predicated on the midfielders pretty much being the engine of most of it, at least defensively and with the pressing. Do you have similar concerns about this midfield today, or are you more on Nick's side where you're less concerned with the midfield?
No, I agree with Gally. I think I don't think we have any worries with Endo other than maybe fatigue. And I don't think we have any worries with Elliott because he always puts a shift in, which is why we constantly question why he's not starting in the lineups. But Gravenberch, he hasn't switched on a lot when he's played. Like, he's never grasped his chance when he's been given the minutes. So I fully agree with Gally. I think Fulham are going to probably target that area of the field. But the only saving grace for me is I think Konate was dropped as well. I don't think that's a fitness issue at all, unless there's an injury I don't know about, because he's horrendous. He's right now, he's making very bad decisions where he's relying more on his physicality than on his brain and all the good things that made him so good. So I'm glad that Kwanzaa is in there, because at least he's a little bit more savvy, if not as strong as Konate. So I think in the midfield, and it's unfortunate, but I think Gravenberch will be the weak link, and that's where we'll probably see a lot of the gaps happening.
Yeah, Gally, I guess, and also, sorry, before I say that, some Instagram comments as well. Good morning to Kukarel, saying, cannot wait to see how the team responds today. And Sir Zahid on Instagram, no one tell my wife I snuck away to watch the game. We're watching my son compete in the breakdance comp. No choice. Come on, Liverpool. Nick here chiming in with a score prediction, 3-1 today. Fulham score first. I think we would all enjoy a 3-1 if it means that Fulham doesn't score first. I think we've all been in that position a little bit too much this year. I know I've commented on the fact that it's not a good sign if you lead the entire league in points earned after being the first to concede. It's not as great of a statistic that you want to be up top. So, Gally, because I know you'll be kind of popping off here a little bit early, what is your prediction as far as score and kind of what do you see happening today? So
I'm going to, I I think this team really should be going to this match with one goal and one goal in mind. Obviously, that's secure 3 points. I think the second goal should be to secure a clean sheet, because if they can't start keeping clean sheets and showing that they have the maturity to see out a match, then this whole caring about the lineup because the title run really is over, right? If we don't get 3 points today, let's be real, this thing's done for Liverpool. They need to stay with Arsenal at all levels. So we know what we need to do. That bench is ridiculous. Well, when you get to make 5 substitutions and there's a chance that you're going to do Mo Salah, Nunez, McAllister, Soboslai, and potentially even bring in like a reinsured player like a Gomez, maybe to give Trent a break defensively at the back, I think you give yourself some really great options. So I like the way that looks. Maybe even one of the midfielders. We'll see. I think that this game is won and lost by Virgil being able to lead from the beginning. I think they need to be calm and collected. I hope they don't come out guns blazing in the first 5-10 minutes trying to score. They are a group that hasn't played a lot of minutes together at any one of the setups with how long Trent's been out. So I would just like to see them create some stability to start, maybe even sit off Fulham a little bit, wait 5-10 minutes, then go after them on the press, try to take a lead in the first half and show some like actual dominance. If you want to call yourself Premier League champions at the end of the year, the play has to be stellar over the next, 6 or 7 matches. And we haven't seen that in a long time. So I'm going to go 2-0. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I'm going to say they keep the clean sheet. And for the sake of my fantasy team, I hope Mo comes off the bench and scores both goals.
Just before you leave, did you triple captain Mo this week?
I didn't. I went with a bench boost, and I am actually crushing it. 58 points right now, plus 23 on a green arrow. So I'm inside the top almost 60,000 of the world, and I'm only 3 points behind my wife to take over for a contributor lead in the American Scouser Cup. So I told you this would be different. So I won't be on the fantasy show this Thursday because I'll be out your way in Chicago at Second City going to a comedy show. But I might have to chime in, and I hope the host will find a way to review my team.
I did this last week.
Enjoy the match. We'll see you next week.
Bye, Gally. Thank you. Yeah, kind of, it's fun to say you're top 60,000, but then when you're still 3 points behind your wife, is it still worth saying you're top 60,000?
I mean, he was behind his wife last year when I did it as well. So we know where the football brains are in that family.
Kelly runs that household in more ways than one. Stephen Cook, Second City is great. Enjoy it. We'll pass along the message to Gally, or he might watch this back and see that, but we'll make sure we let him know that you wished him a happy Second City viewing. So, Macca, I don't know if this is particularly maybe not so much today focus, but I have seen there has been some chatter. I don't know how much the youth are thinking about it. When, in terms of Van Dijk being the captain of this team, there's been some rumblings of, has he been the right man for these last 6-7 weeks of being the captain? I think there's been some people who have talked about how they don't feel like he has that bite to him that someone like Hendo had, right? To really get the guys in focus, if you will. Do you find yourself thinking that at all? Do you think there's anything behind that? Do you think it's more so just we're just looking for things at this point?
I don't know. I mean, like in terms of captaincy, there's a lot of things that go on in the background for like club captains. No, like the old-fashioned thing was like organizing tickets and stuff like that, and like the social side of the game might be a lot different now that they're all multi-billionaires. But in terms of on-field leadership, he's not very demonstrative. That's what I'd say. Henderson would it's a cliche, but sometimes you need somebody to just like shake their fist and go, "Let's go, lads, let's keep it going." And I don't really ever see Van Dijk do that. I do see him pointing his fingers a lot at people when things don't go right, and you don't need to be told you've made a mistake when you've made a mistake, and it's an obvious mistake. Sometimes that's the worst thing you can do. So I would agree that I haven't seen his leadership skills on the field in the last few games. We really needed somebody to knock some heads together and say, stop arsing about. It's this is serious times here. especially in the first leg of the Atalanta game. I mean, for all the tactical stuff that they did really well, we needed somebody on the field to calm it down after that first goal, and to be what you call not a metronome, what's like a pulse taker almost of the team, and to keep everything going that way. So I don't think he's a demonstrative captain. There was a thing for Ireland years and years ago, Dave O'Leary, ex-Arsenal player, Leeds manager and all that, who was supposedly this great leader, but it came out afterwards that all he ever did was point fingers and blame people. When things were going well, he was great. When things weren't, he wasn't. And I think Van Dijk has a little bit of that about him. When things aren't going great, he doesn't really have that sort of lead from the front kind of attitude. It's everybody else's fault that you're making me look bad, might be the psychology of it.
Sure. Good morning to Brian joining us. I think we're just looking for things. These guys are professionals. They all should be leaders. Nick Van Dijk was unanimously voted captain by the squad. I would not overthink it. I think there's some truth to that, right? The players do see him as that role model, as that guy they look up to. And speaking of guys that we look up to and our role models and our unanimous captain, good morning to Timochin.
Thank you.
How is that for an intro?
That's not too shabby. After like the disastrous ones I've had like over the last 3 months, I'll take this one any day.
How are you doing today?
I don't know, man. That's kind of like a little scary lineup, isn't it? I mean, I understand. I think Brian was just saying it, right? Like we are looking for things, but man, looking for things at a wrong time. But I think you can make a case for each, right? You can make a case for got to try something different instead of trying the same thing over and over again. It will be interesting to see how the team reacts to this.
Yeah, and I think I did see this comment go through. Anyone see the official force response to the game for Everton? Massive accusations. That is something that we'll go over probably tomorrow morning, as well as potentially tomorrow evening on our podcast as well. Because that's going to be a huge thing to go over. Definitely a lot of talking points there. Maybe some interesting implications there for everyone involved. However, looking forward to this game, Timochin, I think we touched on different parts of the team. Obviously, the lineup is completely unexpected, you could say, because you could have expected some changes, but you might have not predicted the likes of Mo, Nunez, Szoboszlai, Konate being dropped, essentially, as Maka was saying, dropped and not fitness issues. What do you think the kind of response is that Klopp is looking to get, besides the obvious, like, hey, things need to turn around, right? But does this send a message to the team in more ways than one about Mo being dropped, let's say?
Yeah, and that's why I feel like, we've been talking about this team has to give a reaction, and then, Klopp guaranteeing the reaction and all that kind of stuff. We've had that. We had it after the Atalanta game, didn't happen, and then it didn't happen, and then it didn't happen. So this is the third time we're looking for a reaction now. Heck, maybe fourth if you count the United game too. And I think this one is different because the other ones you kind of kept trotting out the same team and saying, hey, show me. Show the reaction. I think now, like, Klopp is making the reaction and changing some people. So, and I think everybody in the squad right now knows going out to this game that it's something totally different and they have to do something different. And I think that's why I'm a bit more hopeful on the reaction on this one than I was in the prior ones, to be honest with you. And I know, like Nick says, we can't talk like death all season. This is not a depth thing. Like, this is not a depth rotation here. It would be one thing to put Gravenberg over there, and I can understand that, or Elliott over there. The other thing is, like, I love seeing Elliott in the starting 11, but of all the times that we see him in the starting 11, Mo is not out there. And I feel like he has good chemistry when he plays right side of midfield with Mo. That's kind of helps him look good. So it's going to be interesting to see what it's like does on the pitch. But, man, I mean, they have to know going out into this game, Mo being on the side, even Nunez being on the side, you can kind of tell like they will see the vibe. They see a different midfield. It's reaction time. And really, I mean, you can't afford any hiccups at this point. You got to get 3 points and then hope for something else to happen.
Yeah.
I just like the thing about the reaction thing, though, is if you're looking for a reaction, you get the reaction from the players who failed you the first time. And he hasn't done that. So I think Timuchin is right. I think this is a reaction from Klopp rather than the players, because you'd put those back on and say, right, you didn't do it on Thursday, do it now.
Yeah.
But this is a whole new change. This is like, you didn't do it. Sit down. Now I'm going to show you how it's supposed to be done. And I hope we get that.
Because he said that after the Atalanta game, and we didn't see it on the weekend, obviously, in the Palace game. And, you could argue that, if they finished, maybe you would say, oh, we saw a reaction. If they finished that game and maybe if we win like 4-1 or something, I don't know, people would say, yeah, see, this is the reaction that we want him to give. It could just be as simple as, you guys don't have the finishing boots on. Let's try somebody different, because we tried this over and over and over again. And I mean, when was the last time we were shut out like 3 times back to back to back? And then let's face it, we just scored from like a penalty kick on Thursday. So
yeah, they haven't scored from open field in what feels like forever.
Yeah.
Can you argue though, Timothy? This is, I'm not. Most of everything I say will just either be a different opposing viewpoint or devil's advocate or whatever the case might be. That, especially the Atalanta game in the second half, that they were just tactically outdone, and that sort of falls on Klopp more so than the players really performing. Or do you feel like the blame is more halved than it is one side or the other?
I would probably say halved. I mean, but at the same time, here's what happens, right? If we're going to give full credit to Klopp when the people on the pitch are mentality monsters and they go at it and stuff like that, then you have to give some of the blame when the people on the pitch look like they lost hope and belief in it as well. I mean, I think we saw a little bit on Thursday, which was probably the most disappointing part about Thursday's game. But I think this is Klopp basically saying, got to make a change. And honestly, this is not a bad time to make a change for him, because maybe he doesn't have to deal with the aftermath. I mean, there's going to be a lot coming out of this. This team goes out there right now and, let's say, plays great, wins the game for you at first half or something, right? Like, what do you do the next game? Or is this him basically, he might be able to come back with a short turnaround for the Everton game and say, oh, that was just rotation. Or does he keep riding it if this is the lineup that goes out there and can finish and can get things done? So it's going to be interesting to see what these guys do and then how Klopp reacts to that, especially if they do well.
Yeah. Ali is joining us on Instagram. Good morning, Ali. Hope you're well. And Sir Zahid also saying big players have gone missing last few games. No desire in the last game, which kind of leads to Nick's comment here. For me, it's not tactics or fitness. The body language looks off for many on the squad. Mac, I know we've probably talked about this in what feels like in droves, but we could sit back and argue. We can play the what if game, but it almost seems like the emotional response of Klopp's message of him leaving is really starting to wear down a lot of these guys, right? Where it feels like every time they're asked something, it's about how do you make this last season special for Klopp? Like how do you plan to make this the greatest season of all time? And it seems like it's really wearing them down. Do you think, maybe it goes without saying that's a big part of it.
Didn't Robertson say something after the Atalanta game to that effect on Thursday, that basically they're trying, like the weight of having to make the season great is a little bit too heavy for them to carry. I'm pretty sure it was Robertson said something to that effect. So it wouldn't surprise me. But at the same time, I've said this before, sometimes that Klopp never came across as like a hard taskmaster kind of Felix Magath type. You're running up this mountain right to the top of it for the promise of ice cream that's not actually there, kind of a deal. He likes the players like him. So the burden is on the players. I don't think Klopp would ever say, make this season special for me. It's all on the players. And maybe because it's such a new team, we haven't had enough players that are capable of that emotional burden. Whereas, let's say if it was Henderson, Milner, Firmino, maybe even Mane, they probably could handle this last season with Klopp a lot better because they've been through it all with him. So it might be just a very bad perfect storm combination of new players coming together. They won their first trophy. So they're some of them like the McAllister and Szoboszlai and all that are a little bit happy that they've got their medals and they took their foot off the gas where they're not supposed to. But I think that burden has something to do with it. Not Thursday night. I think he was out-coached on Thursday night by Gasperini. That he had a fantastic plan for us that we didn't deal with. But overall, over the last, 6 weeks or whatever, I think you can see that burden is that coat is a lot heavier than it should be.
And Stephen here saying it's the player's responsibility, in my opinion. They have a philosophy and they're letting their emotions overcome their training. Nick as well. I think we've been punching above our weight all season, added in the Klopp announcement, long season with Thursday nights, and it feels inevitable we'd come down to earth at some point. And while I think there is truth in that, I also do think, I think to mention, we've talked about this, that expectations are allowed to change throughout the season. And yes, while in the beginning it may not have been, if you would have told us that Champions League qualification and a trophy was what you would get for this last year, I think everyone would be happy with that. And, we've talked about how that could change, though, as you move forward in the season. So, the come down to earth moment we wish could have happened at a different time. So I guess let's say the result today goes south the way we don't expect, the way we don't want it to go. What are you looking for the end of the season then?
I don't know, because normally you would say, take a peek at next season, but I mean, Klopp isn't here, so what are you going to take a peek at? So you're just going to keep going with this team the way it goes. I mean, I really think Nick's account has been hacked. There's no way we're agreeing this much with Nick, but but I mean, I agree with what he's saying. But having said that, really, aside from the finishing that has been horrendous, if we were finishing slightly better, we looked at one morning with you, Mateusz, you brought up like the finishing percentages. It's kind of like, if it was slightly higher, this team, it would still be successful and would still be getting points, would still be getting like wins. It's just that it's not finishing. I mean, we've always, let's face it, always conceded goals. We've always leaked goals, like one goal here and stuff. That's why the Timuchin special is 3-1 and not anything else. Whoa, this is going all over the place.
Sorry.
Getting me dizzy over here.
Whoops.
But I think the fact that we are not finishing is what's affecting everything right now. I mean, is that being tired? I don't know. I mean, I don't think it has anything to do with like that. I don't think has anything to do with Klopp's announcement and he's leaving. And I know everybody says that. I mean, going back to what Macca is saying, that's what I wonder. This is there's a lot of new faces here, and I can see the young kids, feeling it because Klopp is the one who gave him a chance and stuff. But is Ando really like, I gotta send Klopp in a good way? I mean, does he? He just came in. Like same thing with Max, same thing with Szoboszlai and stuff like that. Are those guys more worried about how I'm gonna fit the next game plan more than anything else? More than worrying about sending Klopp off in a good way? I just think if we finished, we'd still be talking about. I agree that we've like punched above our weight, but I think if we could just finish slightly better. We're still talking about, how they will overcome so many obstacles and stuff like that. But when you can't score, obviously you don't get points, and it looks, like this.
Leicester punched above their weight that entire season, and they still came in with a title. We don't talk about them. We can talk about them punching above their weight, but because they were able to finish when they needed to, they were still able to win. And, whatever, that was many years ago now. Focusing on today, sorry, that was a bit of a tangent. Mecca, SofaScore has the front line as Gakpo on the right, Diaz on the left, Jota through the middle. Do you expect to see that? Do you expect to see what is your expectation versus what is your hope? Because I think for many of us, I think we'd like to see Gakpo through the left, Jota through the middle, and Diaz on the right. But I wonder where your head is at with that.
No, I think that would make more sense because Harvey's left-footed on the right side, so it creates space for him to come in. Because as you said earlier, him and Mo have a good rapport, or as we said earlier, I can't remember if it was you or Gali, but they do have a good rapport, so they understand not to get on each other's way. Diaz is a hand grenade sometimes with his movement. You literally have no clue where he's going to go. So I think if he's on his right foot on the right side, at least he stays a lot wider, which creates that inside half space for Elliott to play in. So I hope it's that. What I hope it's not is Gakpo through the middle, Jota on the right, and Diaz on the left, because I don't know how that's going to work whatsoever. And it'll just be a jumble of players standing on the D of the edge of the box, not knowing who to pass to, and it's going to end up going all the way back to Kwanzaa.
And then to Ellison. I mean, how about this? Maybe Klopp is changing freaking everything. It'll be a 4-2-3-1 with Endo and Gravenberg, and then Gakpo behind Jota, Elliott on the right, Diaz on the left.
I mean, like, let's think of the repercussions of that now, Timuchin. Saidu will be all over the comments for the rest of the season if we get that 4-2-3-1.
The thing we've been missing all along. Nick says Diaz is like Mane without breaks.
Yeah.
And Square supporting Liverpool from Mozambique. Thank you for joining us this afternoon over there at this point. So, but thank you for popping into this live stream. So I guess about 13 minutes left until kickoff. So about that time where we'll kind of get some score predictions. And I will, now that I'm back in the host chair today, I am going to extend what I extend every time. If you put your predictions in the chat with the goal scorers and you get them correct, I will personally buy you something from American Scouser. So, Mecca, let's start with you. Where are you
Do we
at?
qualify for this, by the way, or is it just the audience? I just asking.
You guys will never get it right, so I'm not worried about that.
You know what, Mecca, challenge is on, bro. Come on, go.
It's invitations extended to everyone. Let's go.
You want my prediction?
Yes, sorry.
Or what do you want from the shop? Yes.
Here's my prediction. I would fully expect to see Gakpo to score 2 goals. It just seems like we need a game where something magical happens, and I don't think there's anything more magical than Gakpo scoring 2 goals right now, and Diaz passing the ball. So I'm going to go 3-0, Gakpo 2 goals, and Diaz passes the ball. That's my big prediction. I should get a prize for that if I'm right.
I think give it a chance for Gakpo's 2 goals, if I'm honest. Nick here goes 3-1. Jota with a brace. Mo with a late penalty. And I'm assuming it's late because he'll be on late. Timothy, what about you?
I'm going with a 4-2 win.
Ooh.
Because it's Fulham. All these games are always crazy with Fulham. 2 from Jota, 1 from Gakpo, and 1 from Mo off the bench.
Okay. Interesting.
He doesn't get on the field. He just scores from the bench.
just taps it in from the side.
I'm gonna go 3-2. Jota with 1, Harvey with 1, Cody with 1. I think we're gonna see all 3 before the 60-minute mark, and that'll be the game. And Fulham will have a late goal to make it 3-2. That's where I'm at. Trevor here, Timothy special. So 3-1, which Timothy didn't go with today. But Jota with a brace, Kwanzaa header specifically.
Ooh.
Yeah, if you guys also say which foot or which part of the body was used to score with, I will send you Timothy in the package as well.
I will personally deliver it, yes.
He will show up at your door wherever you are, whether it's Mozambique or Arizona. You can expect Timothy at your doorstep.
I think if they get it right, they should get fashion tips from you. But if they get it wrong, you have to get fashion tips from me.
Ooh, that's a good one, actually.
That was pretty fun. Ali says hello from Instagram. He is a big fan. Thank you, Ali, for joining. We appreciate your fandom here, and we appreciate you tuning in. So, before we go and get settled and turn the game on, any parting thoughts from either one of you? Timothy, start with you. Anything left that you wanted to say, you wanted to touch on?
I'm really interested to see how this team reacts. Everybody out there knows that they're kind of almost like blowing it up, if you will. I know but here's the thing. I'm sure Klopp is not presenting it like that. He's saying we just play Thursday, we play again on Wednesday, kind of a deal. But I'm sure everybody in that squad knows that this is a change and a big change. So let's see how they react. I'm pretty interested to see how this front 3 especially reacts.
Really quick, Trevor retracts his prediction because you can't risk Timothy showing up at his doorstep. I don't blame you.
I thought you couldn't risk Mecca's fashion tips, actually.
Oh, see, I thought that was the other way around.
You'd be more than happy to form knock on your door. Trust me.
Nick, up the punching above their weight. Reds, Mecca, any parting thoughts, Mr. Non-leaker? Oh, God.
My prostate is fine.
Something we don't know.
I've been to the doctor. My prostate condition is quite healthy. Thank you very much.
I almost went 35 minutes without saying something really stupid. Almost.
That's another prize. The timing. But here's the only thing I want to see is shots on target, because they've been dropping since January, and they've been definitely dropping since the Carabao Cup win. So I just want to see us getting shots on target that make the goalkeeper work. I don't want to see any more like balloons over the bar from a Mo shot or Nunes literally not scaring the goalkeeper in a 1v1 because he just has to say, I'll just stand here. I just stand it. Yeah, I see it bounce off the post. I was right all along. Get some shots on target, and then whether they go in or not is up to the fates, and I'll be happy with that.
Perfect. Yep. 27 shots means nothing if only 2 of them are on target, and they both end up in the keeper's hands. So from all of us at American Scouser TV, thank you for joining us. If you have not yet, head over to YouTube, give us a nice little subscription. Also, if you are not involved yet, our Patreon has some fantastic content there for as little as $1 a month, not $1 a day, like I accidentally said on the fantasy show, because I ended up getting
$1 a day. I mean,
yeah,
we'll take it.
$1 a day. It feeds me in a great way, but $1 a month gets you some amazing content from all of the lovely faces here at American Scouser. Thank you again, everyone. Up the Reds. We'll see you after for the post match, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care. That was the wrong one. I'm going to run.
I was just jamming. What the hell?
We were jamming, but we were jamming to the wrong one. So I apologize. We're actually going to be signing off with this one.